Now at 11, another weekend of town halls filled with people frustrated about what's going on in the federal government.
We need people to be able to stay in the game and to be able to fight.
This as a former federal worker laid off by the Trump administration is sharing his concerns.
Ultimately, the taxpayers are suffering.
And later on, Oregon lawmakers hear from gun safety advocates as the state leads the West Coast in firearm deaths.
This work takes courage.
Thanks so much for joining us here at 11. I'm John Adams. Packed Democratic town halls have become commonplace in the weeks since President Trump was sworn in for a second term. In Oregon City this evening, Senator Ron Wyden and Representative Janelle Bynum took questions from constituents, with many raising questions about Democrats' support for the government funding bill passed this week.
Help. I'm confused with the budget vote.
It was a packed house in Oregon City as two members of Oregon's congressional delegation tried to shed light on the government funding bill passed just a few days ago that averted a government shutdown. Senator Ron Wyden and Representative Janelle Bynum both opposed the bill, but enough Democrats joined Republicans to pass it. Wyden explained his opposition.
It's a very tough issue, but I thought, and still do, it was more important to take on Donald Trump, who is trying to bully the Senate, than to duck.
The event took place after a poll conducted by NBC News shows only 27% of registered voters say they have a positive view of the Democratic Party. That's the lowest percentage since the poll started in 1990. Despite this, Wyden says the crowd tonight was behind his message.
I asked them to be with me in this fight against authoritarians and bullies. I thought it was the most important thing I'd said all night, and there was a very, very strong ovation, an indication they'd stay with us.
Bynum even tried to reassure the crowd, nervous and upset about actions by the Trump administration, that things were going to be all right.
Part of leadership is to tell people, is to reassure them, is to kind of bring the temperature down so that you can get to a point where you can actually be effective.
Regardless of the poor polling numbers, Bynum says the Democrats have a plan to counteract President Trump's policies.
The plan is to keep pushing. The plan is to hear from the people, number one, what they want, what they need, why they feel passionate about them, and put up a blockade wall for any additional crazy things that Trump and Elon Musk are coming up with.
These are dedicated people who took the oath of office to try and create positive change, and they believe strongly in that.
Many federal workers from several agencies have been facing termination due to the Trump administration's recent moves to cut the federal workforce. One federal probationary employee who wanted to stay anonymous said he received a termination letter last month just as he was recovering from surgery after being diagnosed with cancer. Arceline Stevens shares his story.
The day after I returned from the hospital, I received my official notice of termination on February 20th.
This is part of the termination letter this former federal probationary employee with the IRS received after working in that position for 7 months.
It was quite a blow when I received that notice of termination. To be told that our positions were being terminated based on performance was a real slap in the face.
That letter followed him receiving an email at the end of January requesting his resignation, with the deadline to decide being on February 6th, one day after surgery for his cancer that had returned.
I chose not to accept that offer. One, being concerned about my health, and two, just not certain of whether or not the offer was valid.
But then on February 20th, he learned he was terminated.
It really struck deep in that I took this position with a great deal of pride. I also was told and believed that my position with the federal government was going to be secure and offer financial stability, and long-term security, and something that I could eventually retire with.
He's not the only one. The Trump administration has cut thousands of federal workers from a range of departments across the board to intentionally reduce the federal workforce, including from the IRS, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Education Department, and more.
When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people.
However, federal judges have ordered the thousands fired to be temporarily reinstated, but this former employee says he still doesn't know where his position stands, and he wants to protect his chances.
There is a real fear of reprisal, and I do not wish to put my face or name out there and jeopardize my reinstatement.
He says he believes there was a better way to streamline the federal government, and now he's left to pick up the pieces.
To put this amount of stress and uncertainty on people's lives who have devoted themselves to trying to improve this nation is just a complete disregard for what makes this country great.
Well, that man also has a son with significant health issues, which he says is a lot to deal with while juggling finding new insurance, filing for unemployment, and finding a new job if he's not reinstated. As for some better news, his surgery was successful and he is cancer-free yet again. Turning now to the weather, the last weekend of winter brought us plenty of snow up in the Cascades and a lot of rain through the metro area. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri is joining us tonight. Joe, just how much snow did we see in the Cascades this weekend?
It was practically nonstop, it felt like, especially yesterday leading up to this morning, where basically 24-hour snowfall amounts are close to 2 feet. Just right around 20 inches of snow has fallen, and it's continuing to fall out there. I just looked outside our Timberline Lodge camera, and it's heavy snow at this hour. And that's what we're going to continue to see heading into the overnight hours. We'll zoom in a little bit, show you the Portland area, starting to see some showers moving through. If you're just west of Portland along the northern Oregon coast, you're going to be basically dry the rest of tonight and into tomorrow. But again, we're going to be seeing some of the showers continue throughout the central and southern part of the Willamette Valley, throughout the Oregon Cascades. You're going to be seeing a couple of inches of new snow. Mainly dry tomorrow morning, but once we get into the afternoon, John, there's a chance that we'll be seeing those showers increase. Along with those increasing showers, we'll also see the threat of a slight threat, I should say, of some thunderstorms. But again, those snow showers continue throughout the Oregon Cascades throughout tomorrow and into Tuesday morning. We'll start to see the showers pick up, though, by the middle part of the week. Heavier amounts of rain, I should say. Again, the concern for parts of the valley is the central and southern part of the valley with that flood watch in place. And again, winter weather advisory has been extended throughout parts of the Oregon Cascades until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We'll talk more about the last couple of days of winter coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Joe, we'll see you then. In southern Oregon, 6 counties and 3 tribal nations are dealing with flooding brought on by those heavy rains. In Douglas County, some people have evacuated their homes for temporary shelters. People in the area are asked to reduce their travel and prioritize safety. Flood warnings are in effect through tomorrow morning for several creeks and rivers throughout the county. In southern Oregon, ODOT has shut down a 33-mile stretch of Highway 58 due to reported spinouts, downed trees, and snowy conditions. The closure is between Oak Ridge and Crescent Lake. There's no estimate on when the road will reopen. Woodburn police arrested a driver after allegedly hitting and killing a pedestrian early this morning. Around 1:45, officers were called to the area of Silverton Avenue and Pacific Highway, where they found both the pedestrian and the driver. The pedestrian was declared dead at the scene. The driver, 27-year-old Santino Saldana, was arrested for DUII, criminally negligent homicide, and assault. And this afternoon, Beaverton police arrested another driver on DUII after crashing their vehicle into a restaurant. It happened around 12:30 at Togo's Sandwiches along Southwest Beaverton Hillsdale Highway and 9th Avenue. Police say no one was hurt, but the car narrowly missed a customer. The driver was also booked on reckless driving, endangering, and criminal mischief charges. Wildfire season is just around the corner, and insurance companies across Idaho are taking a hard look at who they will insure. After wildfire threats year after year, a reassessment is leaving many homeowners without insurance. One woman in Cascade, Idaho, says she was bounced around multiple times until she got covered, but even they won't cover wildfire risks.
Light a match to our house and let it burn up. But if a forest fire came through, it wouldn't be covered.
One insurance agent says fires have become more intense recently, making insurers question whether the risk is worth taking. But he also says it's not all out of homeowners' hands. They can make improvements to their property, like adding green, wet area around a home to reduce wildfire risk and increase the likelihood they'll get covered. New tonight, a small community in Yamhill County has gone days without running water after a leak caused a system failure. The Cove Orchard Water Association said they have now found the leak and are working to get a contractor on site for repairs. The community has been without service since Friday. The association said they hope to return service late Tuesday, but once it's back, there will be a boil water advisory until testing shows it's safe for consumption.